Grace, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You work at North Phoenix in the college
Mhm.
group, The Collective,
Yes.
and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Would
Okay.
love to know more about you, your background,
Yeah.
kind of what led you to where you're at today. I know you played collegiate soccer. You've got some cool stories there. Whatever
Yeah.
you want to share, just walk
Yeah.
us through it.
Yeah. So I grew up in kind of a Christian family in name only. So we went to church sometimes. The memories I have of church are very vague. And I would have said how I've described like my view of God growing up was kind of like a genie in the bottle.
Yeah.
You'd pray when things were going really wrong and you had no other option, or when you kind of really wanted something and you didn't know how to get it. And those were like the only times I really talked with God, or God really existed in my life. And so I started playing, I guess every single sport growing up. By the time I was 10, I singled out soccer, started playing competitively. And then age of 13, 14, I started getting recruited to play in college.
And what was your position?
I went everywhere, honestly, but center back mainly in, I guess, middle school, high school.
Okay.
And that's why I got recruited to play as a center back. And then they moved to outside back later.
Okay.
And so I learned to run a lot.
Yep.
But so loved soccer, loved playing, loved the training behind it too. I
That's
think
weird, by the way.
I know. So through high school, all of the extra everythings that people did, I just loved it. And also I think it was more so that's just where my friends were. And so we were always doing all these extra trainings, always. There's this thing called Off the Field. I love those guys. It's like an off the field training. So they kind of did more sports performance stuff. We'd go there like every day after school. So I'd end up having like 2-3 trainings after school every single day. And I loved it, which was weird. But I think it's just because I was doing it with my friends.
Sure.
So
Makes sense.
by the time I started getting recruited to play in college, which again was like 13, 14 years old, I had also been introduced to drugs, alcohol, and unhealthy sexual relationships. So it kind of happened all-ish at the same time. And that's kind of where I learned to define my worth and value throughout high school was unhealthy sexual relationships, drugs, alcohol, and then also success in soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of took those things with me all through high school to college. Went to Hawaii for my first year, which was super fun.
Is
and
it as
then
cool as it sounds, by the way?
It was very fun, very cool. I'm gonna hate myself for saying this, but the beach did get old.
Really?
It did. It got to the point where we're like, okay, I guess we'll just go to the beach again. Which now saying it, I'm like,
yeah, there's my wife, but totally disagree.
I know. No, I know. I love the beach, and right now I'm like, I wish I could go. But yeah, it was very fun. But I ended up transferring after my first semester there to Boise State, and then when I got to Boise State, sorry, I'm like getting a little nervous. I guess you can take some of this out. But so went to Hawaii for my first year, transferred to Boise State. And when I got to Boise State, I'd finally started to get the playing time that I was looking for, which is one of the reasons I transferred. I didn't become a starter until the end of my freshman year, which even saying that now was like, that's awesome that I became a starter at the end of my freshman year. And I definitely had an ego going into college just based off of my high school experience with soccer. We won a couple state championships. I have no other way to describe it besides I had an ego. And so I didn't get the playing time I felt like I wanted until the end of my freshman year, transferred to Boise State, and then started to earn back playing time there as a sophomore. And I just kind of found myself in this point in my life where I was just really empty. And it didn't really make sense to me because one of my best friends had transferred to Boise State as well. We were hanging out with all of our friends all the time, drinking, partying, the whole party athlete culture at Boise State. We're heavily involved in. I started dating a new guy. I started getting the playing time I wanted. And it didn't make sense why I was feeling the way that I was because I really did feel the most miserable that I'd ever felt in my life. And I kind of had everything that I thought I wanted. Like I'd kind of gone and taken what I wanted, and it just wasn't adding up, didn't make sense. Yeah. And so I started reading my Bible, which is weird because I didn't really grow up in church, but I remembered from growing up that God fixes people.
Sure.
I didn't really know what that meant or what that looked like. And I don't even know why I had a Bible in my college
I was going to
house.
say you had a Bible with you. Okay.
In my college house, in my bedside table, which was, I always say this, it was like a miracle in itself that there was a Bible in that house. So I started trying to read my Bible and journal. And by journal, I was just kind of writing out all my thoughts, feelings, things I'd want for my life. Honestly, my sin that I didn't really know at the time. And then reading my Bible. And by that, I kind of mean like I'd scroll through, I guess, TikTok, and a Christian TikTok would pop up of like the little sermon clips.
Sure.
And I'd open my Bible and like highlight the verse and write it out in my journal and try to figure out like what it was saying. And that was kind of my version of reading my Bible.
Okay.
And one night I was reading in Matthew, and it was Matthew 24, it was verses 42 through 44. And it kind of just talks about the Son of Man returning and coming back. And I don't know why, like in that moment, or why that verse or why that passage, but it had said, now therefore stay alert, for the Son of Man can come at an hour you do not expect. And I was just sitting in my college house on my dining room table by myself, and it just finally clicked for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, this book is real, and God is real. And the reason I'm so miserable is because my life, it looks so opposite of the life that God's called me to live. And he's actually coming back for us. And if he's actually coming back for us, my life needs to change. It needs to change. And so I gave my life to Christ that night on my dining room table. I'm like, whatever I have, you can have it. I don't know, just, it's yours. My life's yours. Which was awesome. And then after that, I started getting plugged into a church called Rock Harbor. Love them. Where I met my first mentor, Rachel.
Okay.
Who was just pivotal in my life. Not necessarily even going through scripture with me, which a lot of mentors do, but just being a place where I could go and confess sin, and receive prayer. Because James 5:16, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. If you want to be forgiven, ask God. If you want to be healed, tell others, is something that my old mentor used to say. And that was just really pivotal for me in now walking back this immense amount of sin that I had in my life. Because I think it was very easy to say, oh, I gave my life to Christ and I started following him. And I had so many idols and so many strongholds in my life of just, not just sin, but like really heavy trapping sin. Like an unhealthy sexual relationships I was in. I'm like, do I break up with him? Like he doesn't know Jesus. He's trying to know Jesus. At what point, like what do we do here? All my friends drink. Am I not supposed to drink? Do I not get drunk? How much can I drink? I know people can drink. And just like all of those wrestles, and also soccer, which was still a huge idol in my life. And the thing that I had found so much worth and value in.
Probably so much of your identity, right?
So much of my identity. I had been an athlete, specifically a soccer player, my whole life. That was what I was good at. That's what I knew. And that's who I knew to be. And God slowly started chipping away at that identity over time. It started with a verse in Matthew. I think it's Matthew 4:19. And it's either 4:19 or 4:12. I want to say it's 4:19. And it just says, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he's, follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. And that was the first verse that I clung on to in regards to my teammates and my purpose. Of it shifted from, I want to be this successful soccer player, which still was an idol and a wrestle for all of my college career. As much as I would love to say it went away and I didn't care, and I cared the whole time until I was done, sinfully. And, it was just a rough one to yank out, and God did. But my mindset on the soccer field started to shift to, oh, these girls are my competition. I need to put them down. I need to rise above them. To, these girls don't know Jesus.
Right.
And I'm placed here to share that with them. And so those shifts started to happen. And I think I started looking for women in the church who I could relate to had a story like mine, specifically in regards to sexual sin. Because I just didn't know what to do, how to walk it back. Your emotions are so whack. You have no idea kind of where to go, what to do.
Yep.
And I couldn't find any women who were openly talking about any sexual sin, specifically relationships that they were in. And it was so frustrating because there were some men talking about it, but not a lot. And people just don't talk about that type of sin from stage.
Yeah,
like, that's
it's a lot more socially acceptable to, admit to a crack cocaine
Yeah.
cocaine addiction than
Yes.
sex. It's a real thing.
Totally.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just struggling to find people again who I could like see myself in of, okay, wait, how did you get free? I couldn't find anybody. And everybody who talked about it was super vague of like, oh, I was in this unhealthy relationship but I'm better now. And like just would breeze over it. And I'm like, but like, what were you doing? And like, how help me? Like, how do I get to where you're at? And there just wasn't any women. And that's when I started to feel, I think my junior year, a pull into, wait, okay, there needs to be more women in the church with a story like mine. And that's when I started to kind of feel pulled to ministry.
Okay.
So I started serving in my church. And honestly, when I started serving in my church, started to meet women on staff at my church who are awesome, who are leading ministries, who had my story, who just weren't sharing
Sure.
it. Which is hard. It's a hard wrestle because it's not exactly a fun thing to talk about.
Sure.
To say here's my life, here's my sin, and here's my God who saved me from it, and trust that it's covered by the blood. Like you're really putting your faith in what Jesus did on the cross of it covering you.
Yeah. And it's full exposure of your sin, right? Out in the public, right? It's how people are going to respond, how they're going to react, how they're going to treat, how they're going to think about me.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all there.
It's all there. And it's not, being vulnerable isn't exactly fun.
No.
So yeah, that's when I kind of felt pulled into ministry. Graduated college, finished out my college career. I actually started getting phased out of playing time my junior year. Senior year, I didn't really play at all.
Okay.
Which looking back, I see the Lord's kindness in it of removing something from me that I was finding all my worth and value in. Because as much as I would love to say, I was able to lay it down and go and play and not still have my whole identity in it. I couldn't separate the two.
Sure.
And I was really mad and really upset at the Lord because a lot of me was like, wait, I started following you. Like, how come everything that I built is getting taken from me? And even in those words, it's the Lord had to really plow everything that I had built in my life to then start building his kingdom. And he doesn't start building his kingdom unless he has a clean slate to build from. So that's kind of
awesome.
Yeah.
So take us from that to working at North Phoenix and the collective.
Yes. So graduating college, I had been told about like residency programs or institutes at churches that were just year-long programs where you kind of learn how to do ministry. Because also not really growing up in church, feeling pulled to ministry, there's like, okay, what do I do? Like I don't feel like I'm going to go be a pastor of a church, but like what jobs even exist for me? I feel like I need to work. I want to work in a church. I feel pulled to work in a church. I don't even know what that looks like. And so a residency kind of started coming to my mind, or not coming to my mind. I honestly was told about a different institute. And there was a church that I had started following called Harris Creek in Waco, Texas. Just because their pastor there, his name's Jonathan Plecluda, he had spoken at the Porch, and which is like a young adults kind of thing through Dallas that's streamed across the nation. And so I'd kind of gotten a hold of him, like his sermons, and started watching him and kind of looked up. I was like, okay, I wonder if Harris Creek has a residency program that I would be able to do, or some type of institute or something. And so I just went on their website, and they had just come up with a residency program. I didn't know it was new at the time. This was going to be the second class that I was applying for, but applied for that and then got it and moved. And so moved from Boise to Waco right after I guess 6 months after I'd graduated, to start kind of working in ministry. And so I was placed with the recovery ministry there, underneath a woman named Ann Daly, who is still one of the wisest women that I knew, and just got to kind of learn from her for a year of what it looks like to sit in pastoral meetings with people who are broken, and I got to walk through a whole recovery program, leading a group of women, but also going through it myself, which I say that the Lord really just sat me down and made me work on myself for that year, because he really did. As much as I was learning how to do ministry, I was learning the Bible, we were going through different theological topics. I really got to deep dive into my sin, and just my past and my life that I had confessed, but I hadn't really done the work to walk back. And this woman, Aunt Daly, alongside this recovery program, just really sat me down and helped me work through just every bit of my story, which was really pivotal into me moving into ministry later. Just because your sin really does come out in who you're leading, and it will come out to who's following you. And the work you haven't done is going to bleed if you ignore it, because sin doesn't hide, sin doesn't go away. And it'll come out one way or another. So God was very intentional to sit me down and honestly just make me so aware of my sin and where I fall and what my patterns are. But after that residency, I had kind of finished up. Over that year, the Lord had just kind of sent me college girl after college girl after college girl. And so by the end of that residency, I was just like, man, okay, I feel just a pull to college ministry. But again, not really very many church connections. So it's kind of the second church I'd ever been a part of. So I just started kind of going through the interview processes with random churches, different churches. And it was an 8-month long process of me kind of waiting on the Lord for a job. And there'd be some jobs that would come up that I'm like, I could take that, and I don't know why. It just didn't feel right. And so it was honestly an excruciating 8 months, which is crazy to say. But being unemployed is no joke.
Right.
You really do get challenged with, okay, the Lord gives me my purpose and that's it. Not anything I'm doing. And that was really important to me too, to disconnect what I do from my purpose and my identity of like, no, I'm just a daughter of the Lord. I'm just his kid. And to be able to disconnect that from what I was doing was also really important in this time. But I got a call from Davis, who's the college pastor at North Phoenix. He had, I guess, called the church that I was at and was like, hey, do you know anybody who would want to come out and do college ministry? And Dale Wallace, the college pastor there at the time, gave him my number. And so I get a call from Davis. He's like, would you want to come out to Phoenix, do college ministry? And at first I'm like, Phoenix? Like, I don't know about Phoenix. Just because I hadn't had a whole lot of experience with Phoenix before, but I know my family is more West Coast, so I was like a little bit open to it. But we got on the interview, and it was after that interview I remember hanging up and just being like, oh yeah, like I'm moving to Phoenix.
Going to Phoenix.
Yeah. And flew out, met them. One of the biggest things was Davis and Claire, his wife, we met for dinner and we just got to talk. And throughout the weekend that I was here, got to have just really awesome conversations, got to hear Davis preach. And he preached from vulnerability, which was just a huge thing for me. Was I wanted to be able to follow a college pastor and work with a college pastor who preached from his own vulnerability with his story. And Claire was very similar in her conversations with me too, was very open, with herself, with her life. And so it just felt right. And everything, there were so many things that kind of led up to, okay, yeah, this is the job. But yeah, then I kind of took the job, moved to Phoenix.
And
now
how
I'm
long
here.
ago was that?
That was January of this past year. So I've been here 8 months now.
All right.
So still new, still getting used to Phoenix,
Yeah.
still getting used to the heat.
In your first summer in Phoenix?
First summer in Phoenix.
Do you miss the beach yet?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. The heat makes me feel like I should be near a beach.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I will listen. I want to be near a beach all the time too.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So bring us up to speed on the collective, which is the college group at North Phoenix that you're a part of. Like, what is it? What's it all about? What's the vibe?
Yeah.
What is it?
Totally. So it's the college ministry at North Phoenix Church. And the idea is just to get a hold of college students. We want all of the college students to not just be a part also of the collective, but a part of the church. And we want college students who are attending any of the colleges in the area to get plugged into a church. And this is basically the on-ramp to, hey, just come to the collective, come to North Phoenix. I mean, that's kind of
sure.
Yeah.
So the work that you do with the students there, are you specifically working with just the girls in the group, or is it anybody and everybody?
I do work with majority girls.
Okay.
And also a lot of my job is connect groups. So because we have such a large size ministry, we also have connect groups where students cannot just like come and attend this big worship event on a Wednesday night, but they can actually go to a small group and meet other girls who are in their same season of life, who they can feel known and seen. And just basically the idea is to make a big ministry feel small. And we do that through connect groups. And that's a lot of my job as well, is training up those connect group leaders, and just making those connect groups as effective as possible.
The connect groups, how big are they typically?
It really does range. I think our goal would have them be like 10 to 14. There are some like we had our launch night for the collective and people signed up for connect groups, and we had like 30 plus people signing up for a connect group. Does that mean all those college girls guys are showing up? No, but usually there's around like, I would say 15,
which is still a good sized group,
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's huge. The questions that you get, the topics that come up with these individuals, because the age range for your student body is what?
18 to 23.
Okay. What typically are you seeing, I guess, come across sort of your metaphorical desk? Like, what questions are you getting? What are their issues? What are their concerns? What are the pressures? What does that look like?
Yeah. A lot, honestly, with college girls, we see just a lot of mental health, like anxiety, depression. And typically when you start to peel back those layers, you just see levels of like a lot of sexual sin. Honestly, we do talk to a lot of women who are struggling with pornography. Which it also isn't talked about from the women's stage a whole lot, just because 70% of women struggle with pornography. I know it's 90% men, so it's a little bit more men, but still a chunk of women, specifically in this generation. So we've seen a lot of that as well. And just comparison between girls and a lot of mental health stuff is kind of where I'd hit with that.
This is kind of a rabbit trail, and we can dive deeper in it if you want to, or if you'd rather not talk about it. Because it's shocking to me to hear about women looking at pornography. Is there an impetus for that? Is there a reason that that's happening that seems to be common? Like, what is causing that? Is it just the prevalence of the smartphone and that they have access to everything, or what is that?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of when in talking with women who have struggled with that, it's just a comfort thing. Is at the root of it. It's comfort. It's wanting something that will make you feel good for a second. And there's this level of shame when it comes to women too, because in talking with college girls, with sexual sin and pornography, they feel like it's a guy problem. And it's almost it's not okay for guys to be doing, but it's more acceptable for men to struggle with this. Whereas me as a girl, like it's a lot more, it should
taboo.
be a lot more taboo. Like women shouldn't struggle with this. I shouldn't struggle with this. And that honestly just comes from a lack of women speaking about their struggles. So I think if you were to peel back the layers of the reasoning behind it, it really just does go back to comfort.
You're kind of talking about basically vulnerability and just being honest. And we talk a lot on this podcast in terms of like leadership. Authentic leadership and vulnerable leadership is the best leadership, especially when you're talking about a ministry, especially where you operate. I know you're vulnerable about your past sin, being very transparent about it. How has that translated with the students that you work with in the collective? What's that experience been like?
Yeah, I think it's really neat. For me, I public speaking isn't necessarily my thing. And the first night of the collective this year, I got to kind of go up on stage, share my story, which is awesome and such a gift that I get to do that. And what it does is I think it allows girls in the audience to be able to say, oh yeah, me too. Because it's a whole lot easier to say, hey, me too, than to go in and just be like, oh, I struggle with this. And being able to be on a platform, on a stage, being vulnerable, being open, specifically with stuff that people don't typically talk about, it opens the door for women to just easily kind of confess sin.
Sure.
And again, I guess easily isn't exactly the right word, more comfortably maybe. Sure. Because you're not going up to a pastor or a girl working in a church and like trying to get help from somebody that doesn't really understand what you're going through. Sure. One. And it kind of just removes the shame barrier of, okay, wait, like she gets it. Like, okay, wait, she's been there. She's done that. Okay. And also she got free. So how did you get free? And that's opened up a lot of conversations just with college girls, being able to know that these things are a part of my story and they no longer are. And right. I get to help them get from one place to the other. Which honestly is just such a gift and I'll never get over that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a superpower that a lot of people don't use as vulnerability. I think that's one of the things that we're trying to breed at Collective specifically, is just the power of not just being vulnerable, but then healing and then using your story to then go catch other people.
Yeah. The thing about what you're saying that resonates the most is it is the vulnerability component. Mm-hmm. And I've interviewed a ton of pastors mm-hmm. and leaders of churches and congregations. The most effective pastors that I've met with are the ones that will share and be vulnerable about their sin, mm-hmm. about struggles, because what you're in essence doing, and even from your position, and anybody that has any position of authority inside of a church like that, is you're mm-hmm. actually giving people permission to talk about the issue.
Totally.
And born and raised in the church myself, the church is really good at pretending like issues are just not a thing, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
Not healthy. It just mm-hmm. breeds more sin and more mm-hmm. shame. And so doing that, to your point, gives people permission to be like, yep, totally. Me too.
Yeah.
And it levels the playing field.
Yeah.
In an instant. It changes everything.
Yeah.
I know you're new mm-hmm. inside the Collective, but what would you like to see happen at the Collective through your students? What does success look mm-hmm. like for you there as you look forward?
Yeah. I think I want to see our student leaders take ownership of themselves and the ministry. I think success for us, or at least to me, would look like just a student-run ministry.
Yeah.
And we just get the opportunity to get so far out of the way because we have students that are just so hungry to not just lead, but just follow the Lord, and look at their peers and say, follow me as I follow God, and to be effective in that. And to not just do that for their 4 years here, but then leave and go do it where they're at. Absolutely. And feel that purpose, as not just, this isn't just a college thing. This isn't just what I'm doing through the Collective, but this is my life. Like, this is what I'm called to do for the Lord for the rest of my life. And if we can encourage and equip and empower students to do that, I think that's what success would look like, for me through the Collective.
It's great.
Yeah.
What is your message that you give specifically to the young women coming in? Mm-hmm. And even more specifically to these young women that are getting ready to leave college, or they're in their junior year, their senior year. Like, do you have any advice when they ask for advice, or what kind of direction do you give them?
Yeah.
And I guess parlaying into your own story as well. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. I think one of the things, I took this from a commentary, when reading through Jeremiah 1, it kind of talked about the call in Jeremiah's life. And the commentary had said God didn't call Jeremiah to be an eloquent elder statesman. He just called him to be a faithful messenger. Mm. And that's something that I try to continually tell my girls, and our leaders at Collective is it's not your job to make your story sound great. It's not your job to come across as this really strong, powerful leader. It's your job to tell your story as it is, and let God's glory shine through it. And that again goes into the power of vulnerability. Is our power is made perfect, or God's power is made perfect in our weaknesses. And when you're just faithful with your story that you have, it gives God the opportunity to shine through you. The lower you get, the higher he'll bring you, almost, in a sense. And so that's something that I'll try to communicate just with our girls in leaving, is you don't have to be this person that speaks really well or that has all these giftings. You just have to be faithful with what you have.
Sure.
And God will do so much more through that than you would have ever done through any gift or talent or speaking ability that you would have.
For the students, and I'm assuming your experience is primarily with the girls.
Yes.
But is there hesitancy from the students to wanting to go back out, and once they leave the collective and go share their faith with others? Is that come up a lot? And how do you guys tackle that?
Yeah. So I think there's this, I mean, you kind of get a twofold of there's this awkward, like, well, I don't really want to make people mad of like, okay, I follow Jesus. It's against like the cultural norm. And there's this, like, I don't want to be weird. Like, I don't want to be a weirdo of going and trying to tell people about Jesus, and it's just a social thing of like, I just don't want to be looked at as weird.
Yeah.
And I think it just dials back to like, okay, do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God and he came and died on the cross for your sins and that he's coming back? Okay. If you believe that, and you need to, and that should fuel your walk to then go and share on with everybody that you know. And on the other side, in equipping people to use their stories, the hesitancy is, I don't want people to view me like that.
Sure.
I don't want people to view me as the girl who used to drink and party and sleep around and all of that. If I'm sharing that openly, I'm not going to look like this good Christian girl.
Sure.
And also, if I'm sharing that openly, like, is that going to keep godly guys from wanting to date me or get married? And just all of that spiral that you can go down.
Really good questions.
Yeah. Which are all fair fears and just not true of God or his character or what he says about us. And so a lot of, I think, the fear can just be traced back to thinking inwardly, thinking that it's about you, or thinking that it's your job to portray God in a way that he wants to be portrayed, instead of it's just your job to be faithful and say what's true, and he does the rest of the work.
You've shared a lot, your testimony, where God's taken you, where you're at today. And I didn't say this at the onset, but the whole purpose of Ripple Effect is to engage and interview individuals that are making positive change in the world around them. That's what I call the positive ripple effect of change. Or just interviews with change makers is how I put it. What is your message to anybody listening in? It can be a college age girl. It can be they're not even in college yet. They're out of college yet. You're currently making your own ripple effect right now at what you're doing at North Phoenix. What is your message to other people out there that you would encourage them to where they can make their own positive ripple effect as well?
Honestly, I would just say go first. I think so many people wait for somebody else to say the hard thing so that way they can join along, without the fear of, okay, if I say the hard thing, I'm going to get rejected, or if I say the hard thing, I'm going to be looked at weird, or whatever that fear is. And that was one of the things when stepping into ministry, I felt like I wanted to do was be the first woman that I knew of. I know there's a lot of women who do talk about sexual sin, but I wanted to be the first woman who talked about it openly, because I just didn't see any women who were doing it. And that was one of my biggest pulls into ministry. And so when I'm talking with college girls or just college students in general, they're almost waiting for permission to then talk.
Sure.
And my, I guess, encouragement would be to be the first one to say the hard thing, and to go first, and to just trust in the word of God that he'll cover you, and that what you're saying is true. And honestly, what you're saying is just your story, and that God will not just continue to be faithful in your life, but he will be able to use you for more than you would have been able to ask, think, or imagine for yourself. So
I love it. It's great. Thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for what you're doing right now with the college students and pouring back in. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.